been a minute. People have been blowing me up. It's like, did they cancel the show? They cancel the show? And I'm like, no, they said I could come back, though, as long as we brought on my favorite. Well, one of my favorite guest co-hosts, Nery Saenz. What was his name?
What was his name?
.com.
.com. That's it.
Is where you can find comedian Nery Saenz and all of his funniness.
All my hijinks ensues. Yeah.
And we had homework this week.
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis blitzkrieg to Loserville, the epic flameout of Florida's bullying and uniquely unlikable governor shouldn't have surprised anyone, by Jeb Lund at truthdig.com. Did you read it?
I read it. Like, it was one of those things where I found myself getting more and more into myself. I'm like, oh, this is getting good. And it just every single word. I'm like, and because I'm a dumb guy, I was like, what does this word mean? And I was like,
a lot of dictionary.com.
Yeah, not a lot of, but there was some where I was like, yeah, take that, Ron. But also, what does this mean? But it was fantastic. It was phenomenal. I was reading it, and like after the first paragraph, I thought, is this written by Billy Corben? Like, did Billy? Is this
my pseudonym?
Like, yeah. And then I read.
I'm not nearly as smart. As
exactly my point, because the next sentence. In the next sentence, I was like, no, this is more than a 3-syllable word.
This is clearly a more literate man than Billy Corben. All right, what would you remember? Do you remember your favorite? I'll show you mine if you show me yours,
sure.
But I'll give you mine first.
Sure.
All right, my favorite passage. It's early in Jeb Lund's column on truthdig.com about Ron DeSantis' flaming out presidential campaign here. It's if this is to position DeSantis as like the way the media was, that like, oh, he's like the reasonable alternative or whatever to Donald Trump. It says, if Donald Trump was a hammered Bavarian lurching down the street with splotches of beer cheese on his crotch, trying to grope anyone in front of him wearing a dirndl, then Ron DeSantis was presented as the answer to the question, perhaps you'd like your eliminationism more Prussian, sir? And I know you looked up the word dirndl. I know you
absolutely
open a new tab in your browser. And
I love the fact that you think that there was only one word in that sentence. I love the fact.
Sounds like a website you have to swipe right.
It's like Prussian. Did he spell Russian wrong?
Yeah,
what the hell's wrong with this guy?
Bavarian. Right. I like their cream pies. What? No, but that was a fantastic. I'm telling you, and this is not me blowing smoke. I just kept reading, and I was like, because as a comedian, I like to take pride in being able to like have, being quick-witted and insult somebody, but this is a different level, right? This is a different, when you get to a point where you go, oh, this is what happens. This is what this article is like, what it would be like if a professional comedian had time and didn't have to insult somebody within seconds.
Yeah. And college. Time in college.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
Sure.
I mean, I went to Miami-Dade Community College for 7 years, sir. I went to college.
By the way, they dropped the first C. It's just Miami-Dade College.
When I went there, it was called Miami-Dade Community College. And then by the time I left, it turned into Miami-Dade College, which, if you're following the story, means the college got accredited, graduated before I did.
Oh, I thought it was because the word community was too synonymous with communism, but okay, whatever you say.
But my favorite passage, it says that every candidate eventually reveals himself, and it goes on to give a huge list of ways and times that DeSantis eventually revealed himself to not be qualified. But my favorite was, he visited a hurricane disaster area with his feet so desperately shoehorned into gleaming white plastic boots that it made one ask, aren't you a little too short and fat for a stormtrooper? And I cackled laughing. I'm like, that's the funniest thing ever.
I want to show a photo that I took at Disney World a couple weeks ago. And more importantly, it is a cross screen for those of a split screen, rather, for those of you just listening. It is in one of the rides, Daisy Duck appears in these white cowboy boots, or like, and I was like, Ron DeSantis? Like, is that you, honey? And it's just absolutely amazing. And boy, is this the longest intro in history? Like the biggest sort of like, I mean, we're fanboying. We're a pair of fluffers over here. Jeb Lund is actually joining us right now, live on Because Miami. Jeb is, this is a Jeb worthy of an exclamation point after his name. He's a writer for The Guardian, Rolling Stone, Gawker, Deadspin, NBC, Esquire, Vice. Most importantly, he's the co-host of It's Christmas Town, a podcast that reviews the bizarre and gentle world of Hallmark original movies. Jeb, you had previously, I think 3 years ago now, at New Republic, declared Ron DeSantis the TNR's 2020 Scoundrel of the Year. And now here you are 3 years later, kind of writing an ongoing riff on this theme. Where has this guy gone over the course of the last 3 years? The last year alone, his fate seems to have been depressed.
Well, I appreciate that they bring me out of retirement, semi-retirement, as like the old assassin to track Ron DeSantis. I wish it was somebody more pleasant, like just anybody. Where he's gone, like, I think it was a lot easier in 2000 to see where he wasn't as a leader. Like a lot of conservatives, he likes to pride himself on, leadership and decision. And what happened was, in this amazing, like, vast national crisis, public health crisis, he didn't step in, and he let the rest of us sort of police our neighbors and police ourselves. And I think in that leadership void, we got to turn on each other, as opposed to just saying, all right, we were told, let's do, the government stepped in and said, do this. And that's what we're going to do as citizens. And then right after he needed to do that, he decided to do that in the pettiest way possible. And just this obvious kind of like, Henry Ford production line version of dunking on the poorest, weakest, most helpless among us so he can look like a big dude, somewhat on the level of Trump. And effectively, it's just sort of strategic bullying. It doesn't actually do things for people unless what you need is to see somebody else get kicked.
You seem very unsurprised, as you point out in your second paragraph, that at the start of the year, DeSantis was polling within 6 points of Donald Trump in the Republican primary contest. And now, flash forward, less than 9 months later, some polls put him down by as much as 47%. You've got some polls that have him trailing Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy and Chris Christie. You seem totally not shocked. This is your shocked face. We're looking at it right now about this.
Yeah, well, people met him. It's like...
You're goddamn right, meatball.
Anytime you're trailing Chris Christie in a race of any kind, you're not doing well. You should be winning every race, any kind of race that Chris Christie's in.
By every definition of the word race.
Every definition of the word race, you should be winning. You should be beating Chris Christie.
Well, also Christie, what he brings to the table is he's a good bully. So if that's what you made your brand for the last 2 years, just stomping on everyone already beneath you on the way to ascending to the White House, and Chris Christie shows up and just ad-libs his way in front of you, you're pal.
Yeah.
Like, your brand is done.
Oh, that's BS. No, totally BS.
So, Jeb, where do you think this, he's going to make it to, he's got enough money to go through Iowa, Super Tuesday at least, right? So we're going to have to suffer through this make-believe campaign. Is he just literally waiting for Trump to drop dead or flee? Because here, bottom line is, I think if Trump gets convicted over and over again, I think it's conceivable we have the first ever sort of former president in exile running a remote campaign from Saudi Arabia or Moscow. And I think he still gets the nomination from the Republican Party. So what is the end game here for Ron?
Well, I put it in the column, I think his next 2 years are, he's just going to be sitting in at a press board table in an ugly little fluorescent lit room, just getting tuned up by lawyers from the Walt Disney Corporation. The best thing I think he can do is hope he gets enough delegates out of these contests that he can maybe barter them for somebody who's kind of a tweener, who's hoping that, okay, they'll be the, front runner up if something happens that's actually disqualifying to Trump. Because, what futures do you have in Florida? Rick Scott's not going anywhere. Rick Scott hates him. Marco Rubio's not going anywhere. And I don't know how Marco Rubio's pet billionaire feels about Ron, but I don't think he wants Marco stepping down. So there isn't a statewide office for him to go to. The only place to go is up. So he's got to see if he can negotiate some party position, maybe where he could allege that he's a leader of the Republican Party. But I don't think he has a market.
You traveled 3,000 miles in the late 1990s to come to college here at the here in the state, the free state of Florida. I'm curious, new colleges where you went. It was kind of one of the smallest, if not the smallest, public college in the state of Florida, but had a special kind of has a special reputation. Tell me about the school, why you chose to come here, and basically Ron DeSantis is effectively dismantling of it over the past year.
Well, I went there because the application deadline hadn't elapsed. And my mom said, get the hell out of the house. You're miserable. Go to college. Because I was going to Okaloosa-Walton Community College, which is now Northwest Florida College. But it was a proud institution. I was happy to go there. But New College is really extraordinary. It's what's funny, about Ron DeSantis's war on it is he wants to, attack this woke progressive thing and restore traditional college, and a traditional university experience. New College is modeled after a medieval tutorial structure from Oxford and Cambridge. You could not get more traditional in the English language in secondary education than the New College structure. So I don't know how you modernize that. Like, this is something that monks did to get their monk certificate. But, what was neat about it is it's basically an undergraduate grad school. If you graduate New College, you have a 9 in 10 chance of finishing your doctorate. That is just how high the academic success rate is there. And we would get recruits from grad schools coming down where, there might be 3 people graduating from a single department, but there would be people saying, come to our school, because they knew a New College graduate could drop right in, and they were good at self-directed education because you sat with an academic advisor and you said, well, I want to study history. And he'd say, okay, well, you need to take these 4 courses, but if you're interested in this and they don't offer a course, you could make your own. And then you found a professor who was accredited in that field of study and just sat down and read 14 books a semester with them, and then wrote response papers and did a research project. And it was a way of becoming, a pre-academic before you even got the diploma.
Jeb, we are out of time, unfortunately. I'd love to have you come back to talk more about New College. And I understand that there's we could play Less Than 6 Degrees of Matt Gaetz with you, that there is a connection there that is worth talking about. I'm sorry, I think it's Matt Gaetz, because in Florida, don't say Gates. So we will definitely have you back to talk about that soon if you would join us.
I'd be delighted. Thank you.
In the case of Formula One and in the case of Citadel, I paid for that myself. And in fact, I disclosed it to a member of the media when I didn't have to.
Well, actually, Ken Griffin's spokesperson said that he paid for them.
No, I reimbursed him for it. So what happens is I was invited, I went to the game, and I reimbursed him because he was a lobbyist and I could not accept a gift from him. So there are rules related to who you can accept gifts from, who you cannot accept gifts from.
It's richly ironic to hear Miami Mayor Francis Suarez talk about how there are rules about who you can and cannot take gifts from, particularly because he is currently under investigation by the Florida State Ethics Board for taking gifts allegedly from someone he shouldn't. And yes, I know, breaking news. Everybody pick up your jaws off the floor. The state of Florida has an ethics board.
I literally
can't believe it. I can't believe it.
I was literally like, there's a whole board? There's more than one person that has ethics in Florida? Jeez.
And by the way, I'm not suggesting they have ethics. I'm just suggesting there is a board that monitors and is a watchdog and tries to hold elected officials accountable. But that in and of itself is pretty shocking. And so there was a complaint filed against Mayor Francis Suarez for taking some very expensive VIP tickets to potentially the World Cup in Qatar with David Beckham, who's a registered lobbyist at the city of Miami on the Mel Reese soccer stadium boondoggle. Ken Griffin, who is the richest man in the state of Florida, who also happens to be a client of the law firm Quinn Emanuel, for which Francis Suarez is the mayor. Sure. He bought him some tickets. And so it's turned into this mess. And guess what? Nery, the man who brought this complaint against Francis Suarez and filed it with the state is none other than friend of the show, Tomas Kennedy, himself, we'll say a former guest co-host, because he has left us. He has fled for higher ground. He fled Miami and has requested asylum in the state of in the free state of New York. Tomas, Tomas, tell me about this complaint and what is the recent news you got from the state of Florida about this? Because I know just because you file a complaint doesn't mean it's legit and doesn't mean it'll move forward. So what's the latest?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up. Basically, the mayor who has seen his wealth balloon in the millions of dollars from over a dozen side gigs, undisclosed side gigs during his tenure in office, and undisclosed payments from developers to grease their projects through City Hall. has also been using his public office to receive high dollar gifts from lobbying interest before the city of Miami, something that is barred under state law, if not reimbursed within a 90-day period. And this includes,
how can I help?
This includes these Formula One tickets for him and his wife that are valued up to $30,000.
Wow.
And potentially the trip to the World Cup in Qatar and possibly more. And I want to add, the reason why this is such a big deal, Billy and I, you discussed this in our podcast, is because the mayor is supposed to go before the city commission and negotiate a good deal for us, the residents, who pay him a handsome salary to be mayor, by the way. And when it comes to these, lobbying interests before the city, but when he's getting paid and receiving these high dollar gifts by the same lobbying interest, that puts in jeopardy his ability to negotiate a good deal for us when he has to represent his clients and these interests, right?
And to be clear, Glenna Milberg on This Week in South Florida, her very popular Sunday show, she confronted him that it was actually Ken Griffin at Citadel, his spokesperson, who admitted that they had invited and paid for the tickets for the mayor and his wife. And it was only later that Francis Suarez, after the Miami Herald, to be fair, Sarah Blasky and her team at the Herald called him out for this, that he was like, oh, no, wait, no, I totally reimbursed it. Only he will not show proof of that reimbursement. He will not tell us on which date he did so, and he has not answered any questions about this World Cup thing. He ducked Glenna's question about it, too. Have we gotten any answers about how he wound up in Qatar in the luxury skybox of a registered lobbyist for the city of Miami?
No, and that's why I filed this complaint. I told Sarah Blasky, who's done an incredible job reporting all of this, when she asked me why I filed this complaint, it's because the residents deserve to know. It's like what Richard Nixon, another notorious crook, said, right? The Miami residents deserve to know if their mayor is a crook, and they are not getting answers from either the mayor or his administration. In fact, the mayor lies all the time. He tried to pretend that he was only there for a day. Turns out there's pictures of him all 3 days. He said he was there on official business. Blasky got his calendar, and the time that he was there was marked as personal time. He says he paid. When he gets pushed back into it, he says he reimbursed. He won't show the tickets or the receipts for this reimbursement. And you know why this is, Billy? We've talked about this too. This guy got this silk glove treatment for 3 years during his mayoralty, up until the cryptocurrency collapse, right? I mean, he was the darling of the Miami Miracle. And now the chickens are coming home to roost. The walls are closing in, and he's being exposed, and he's not used to this sort of pushback from the press. In fact, he went on this sort of PR tour initially because my complaint at the Miami-Dade Ethics Board was dismissed because of a technicality saying that I needed to have personal knowledge, basically be complicit in the grift to file the complaint.
That sounds about right. See that's an ethics committee that lines up. The ethics committee is like, no, you need to be in on it, buddy. And it's like, okay. In that case,
even then, most of the journalists, and I don't want to pick on them, but most of the journalists that engage in this PR stunt by the mayor didn't properly call him out on all these inconsistencies. They didn't do their homework to know about all these inconsistencies. And I got to give it to Glenna Milberg. She did an excellent job calling him out on every single misdirection that he attempted, and also focusing him on the interview and him, because he kept trying to defer to the Miami Herald and calling them non-objective and biased and whatever it is. So she did a great job. Props to her.
Thank God for Glenna. She didn't get answers to all of her questions, but she asked the questions. She followed up. He was very good at running out the clock on her because she has a live show, with hard outs. But she did an excellent job. And we should talk about this. Just because you file a complaint don't mean it goes anywhere, as evidenced by the Miami-Dade County Ethics Board, who on a total technicality said, you don't have standing, basically. They didn't investigate the complaint or dismiss it on its merits. They just said you can't bring the complaint. At the state level, well, I should start by saying that Francis Suarez has accused you of being a partisan activist, that this complaint was brought by a partisan activist. However, it went to the state of Florida Ethics Board, which is made up virtually entirely of Ron DeSantis appointees. So he may be right. You may be a partisan activist, but this still has to go through the process. And that said, what is the status of the complaint at the state? Did they dismiss it?
Look, I may be a registered Democrat, but we have called out corruption on both sides of the aisle. In fact, we started our crusade against the City of Miami Commission by calling out former Commissioner Ken Russell, who's a registered Democrat. So we call out corruption on both sides of the aisle.
And to be fair, these are theoretically nonpartisan seats. The mayor does not run as a Republican or a Democrat in the City of Miami.
Exactly. But, basically, the Miami-Dade Ethics Board dismissed it on this bullshit technicality. However, they did tell me, and you, I believe, because you were there helping me defend this complaint, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day, that the Miami-Dade Ethics Board can open their own investigation based on the information that they have learned, and I encourage them to do so. That being said, the State Ethics Board doesn't have this ridiculous personal knowledge clause. So they took about, I think, like a month, maybe month and a half to review the merits of the complaint, because, of course, we don't want these institutions being used frivolously, right? They need to have what's called legal sufficiency for them to advance. But everything is in the Herald's reports, right? In its news stories. And like you said, this isn't even allegedly really right? Like
he admitted it. They admitted it. Yeah.
I mean, Ken Griffin and Citadel admitted for paying for this, and Suarez admits to receiving the gift. The only thing that's in dispute here is whether he refunded it or not within the legally allowed time. So
So what has the state said, though, about the complaint so far?
Yeah, I'm getting to that. They basically said that they're moving forward with it, and that an investigator has been assigned to the investigation. So right now we're in the investigative process.
Mr. Mayor, you're brilliant. You were super smart.
And it's not just that he's a partisan activist. It just happens to be that the stupid illegal just happens to be done by the Republicans. That's all it is.
Well, it's lucky us.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look, Bob Menendez was hiding gold bars in his house after trying to rig the halal certification process for the whole country. So there's corruption on both sides.
Whoa. You're not allowed to do that no more?
And he should resign, by the way, especially because his defense, by the way, was, I'm not corrupt, I'm Cuban. That's what he said. He said, like, the reason I have cash stashed all over my house is I'm scared that, like, the government's going to come in. They left, like, in the 50s, his family. Right. Well, number one. And number two, you got $500,000 cash laying around your house, and that's crazy. That's absolutely. By the way, he's a Democrat, and he should resign. Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. In the last 2 minutes, Tomas, Francis Suarez back on his just this week. Breaking news in the Miami New Times. What are we reading about today?
Basically, the mayor got caught again misusing public funds. He took a lavish trip to South Korea and Japan. God knows why, because he's a ceremonial mayor that's basically there to cut ribbons, staying at Ritz-Carltons and other luxury hotels. And he took these bodyguards that we, the taxpayers, paid for. And in February, when asked about this trip, he said no city funds, no taxpayer funds were used on this trip. Turns out, of course, he used city funds and taxpayer funds. We are bankrolling this guy's blatant grift. It's insane. We need to put a stop to it. Like, authorities need to step in here and stop what's happening at the city of Miami.
And by the way,
half of the electeds in that city commission under investigation are arrested. It's insanity.
I want to make sure I repeat that stat. Half of the elected officials in the city of Miami are either under arrest or under investigation. That is absolutely true. 2 city commissioners and the mayor. And to be clear, the bodyguards you're referring to are City of Miami police officers. So these are taking police officers off the street to go on some lavish tour. We're talking about the Ritz-Carlton in Tokyo, the Four Seasons in Seoul. I mean, these are like thousands of dollars a night for accommodations, for meals, and the city lied in a public records request by the Miami New Times and said, oh, no, this wasn't, no city money was used. And that was a friggin' lie, dude.
It's crazy.
Lie. It's crazy. We're out of time. Tomas Kennedy, I hate you for leaving us here in Miami all by ourselves to fend for ourselves. But thank you for being here. You're always welcome on Because Miami.
Thank you. I'll be back in a few weeks. So I don't know if I'm happy or sad about that, but I'll see you guys soon.
The books that were identified as school districts as being problematic, they were pornographic, violent, or inappropriate for the grade level in some other manner.
It's time to ban books and get the smut out of our schools.
Florida school libraries are filled with pornographic landmines. The more I dug, the worse it got.
In fact, one of the filthiest books ever written is still plaguing our children. The Bible!
The book graphically discusses prostitution, incest, rape, pornography, pedophilia, nudity, bestiality, and sodomy, but it actually doesn't end there. There was more.
So much more. Masturbation, genital mutilation, fellatio, dildos.
Let us walk properly, as in the daytime, not in orgies and drunkenness, not in sexual immorality and sensuality.
That is pornographic. Why would we have that in a media center with 10-year-old students? It's just wrong.
You're goddamn right, meatball.
A woman must not present herself to an animal to have sexual relations with it.
I just think parents, when they're sending their kids to school, they should not have to worry about this garbage being in the schools.
Now kill all the boys and kill every woman who has slept with a man, but save for yourself every girl who has never slept with a man.
The idea that that's even in there is inappropriate for these young kids.
It is for the greatness of your iniquity that your skirts are lifted up and you are violated.
How is that an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
Smite the smut. Ban this big bad book.
It should not be offered to children. Governor DeSantis, the parents of Florida, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Banned Books Week, everybody. It's Banned Books Week.
Fantastic.
And Feliz.
Yes, is it congratulations or Feliz?
Mazel tov?
Yeah,
What do you say? I will say Mazel tov.
Mary.
Mary?
Yeah.
Mary Banned Book Week.
Mary Banned Book Week.
Yeah.
But I will say Mazel tov because Florida now leads the nation in book bans. We had more than double the bans of number 2, Texas, according to a new report by the national free speech group PEN America.
That's only because more Florida people can read than more Texas people. So that's only because
I don't know that that's true. The report found that 3,362 instances of books banned across the nation in the 2023-23 school year, which is up 33% of the previous one. But get this, Nery. 40% of those book bans were from the free state of Florida.
Right.
And Nery, I heard a rumor that you're a big banned books fan.
I'm a huge. Oh my God! Are you kidding me? That's my thing. I collect Funkos and banned books. That's what I do. That's what the two things I collect.
It might be a bit of a nerd, but that's pretty cool. Actually, you're like that. Those were your shelves at the house. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not.
You'd get a 10 out of 10 room rater for that backdrop. I mean, with the banned books and the. All right, so Nery Saenz has a top 5 of his favorite books that have been banned in the great free state of Florida.
All right. So the first one.
Hang on.
The fifth one. It's the fifth.
Oh wait,
one.
we have to explain. This is his first top 5. We have to explain to him the rules.
Well, okay, go ahead.
All right. So in the lexicon of the Dan Le Batard Show, when we do a top 5, usually we start with the least favorite or the least worst. That would be number 5.
Yes.
So your 5th book is.
I like the fact that he says as in the Dan Le Batard Show is the only one that does it this way, like the top 5.
Well, technically, I mean, what you want to Mount Rushmore?
No. Top 5. Number 5.
Trademark. I don't think we're even allowed. We have to bleep that. I think.
No. I gotta get
Remember,
editing.
Editing.
So number 5. I guess, right? We're doing number 5.
Correct.
Numero 5.
Number 5 is Julian is a mermaid.
What? They banned? What is
Good for
this?
him.
Julian is a Mermaid is a book about a child who goes and sees 3 women dressed as mermaids. And so he wants to be a mermaid. And the whole book is about acceptance and about, things that you could be whatever you want to be and do whatever you want to do. And if you want to be a mermaid, you should be a mermaid. And then, it's about a child's imagination and creativity and, yeah.
Ban this book.
Ban it. You gotta ban it. You gotta ban it.
Book.
You gotta ban it. So it's clear as day, right? Because mermaids are a real thing. So when a child says to you, "Mommy, Daddy, I want to be a mermaid," it's clear that this book must be taken off the shelves. Because how can we have a child reading this?
I think what I'm most impressed is that somebody identified the metaphor in it, and
they're like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe we shouldn't let you." Oh, Jesus. Numero 4.
Number 4 is this one. I mean, it's a toss-up because they're all so ridiculous. But this one is the Purim superhero. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Because I know it's your people.
Purim, as in the Jewish holiday of Purim.
Jewish holiday, right.
I'm sorry, it's called the Purim
superhero. Right.
And they banned it?
And they banned it because
I'm going to get pissed now, right?
Yeah. So this is, the Purim superhero is about a child who loves aliens and like all these fantastical things. And then there's a Purim festival, right? Party, I guess.
Yes.
Whatever. And in order to, all his friends are going dressed up as superheroes.
Yes.
So he doesn't know what to do because he likes aliens and like outer space things, and he doesn't know what to do. So his two fathers come up with a creative way for him to go to a Purim contest with still being alien but being a superhero at the same time.
Oh, so it's about sort of the Jewish tradition of acceptance.
Right.
It's about the fact that this holiday celebrates the saving of the Jewish people from annihilation based solely on the fact that we were Jewish.
Right.
And so
that's one of the reasons why they banned the book.
What we need to do is we need to embrace people of different everything and say that they are worthy of being identified as human.
Did you not hear the part about two fathers, Billy? Two fathers, man.
No. In this state, we have Nazis in the state. Remember that.
You can't.
I thought this was going to get funnier as we move to number one. I'm just going to get angrier and angrier.
I'm just waiting for a black book to show up.
I was.
You'll get your turn, Roy.
Oh, that's great.
I was actually contemplating putting this at number 5 just because of the sheer. But it's such a tame book. There's nothing there's none of these books, by the way. All of these books, spoiler alert, they're all children's books. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get to the children at a young age, and they're trying to get to discourage them from learning about different cultures and acceptance at a young age. So, but this is
we have to protect the children from acceptance, different cultures and history and facts and
such. So the Purim superhero. I did not know. I got to be honest with you. I was researching this list, and I was like, "What's Purim?" I didn't know. And when I read about it, me and my wife were reading about it. We're like, "This sounds like an awesome book." Like legitimately awesome.
What I love about this is that I told Nery how much this pissed me off, and instead of moving on to number 3, he just kept harping on it.
I will say this. My wife and I have literally bought all 5 of these books while researching them.
That is sort of the punchline of banned books, is that like people there's all kinds of books that I don't give a shit about that I have to go out and buy once they're banned. So numero 3.
Number 3 is And Tango Makes 3. This is the one this is the Gay Penguin book.
The what?
It's the Gay Penguin book. So
the Gay Penguin book.
There's gay penguins.
I've heard of this.
So there's 2 male penguins who the whole book is about adopting a baby penguin, and 2 male penguins take it upon themselves to raise a third. It's a book about about people who want to be parents and they adopt a child and love them as if it's their own. Acceptance and love and caring
and all the things that we should not have here in the free state of Florida. You mean?
Florida. It's great.
The Gay Penguin book.
Yeah, it's called. Yeah, when you look, you can literally Google the Gay Penguin book, and it comes up and it says, "And Tango Makes 3."
By the way, it would be odd if a lot of things came up for Gay Penguin. Like, which Gay Penguin book are you looking for?
Slow down, buddy. It's hard. Our filter's having a hard time. Right?
Numero 2.
This is the Christian the Hugging Lion. So there's a lion that is raised
hugs.
There's a lion that's raised as a cub by 2 men, and they raise it as a cub. They later let it go into I forget if it was they let it go into the wild or they gave it to a zoo or whatever the case may be. But they found this little cub. It's now they love it. They care for it. They let it go free. And when they go visit the lion hugs them. That's it. That's all that happens.
Where's the objectionable?
Because there's 2 men that raised it. There's 2 men that raised the lion.
To love other people.
Okay. And then they do such a horrible job of raising them that the lion doesn't eat them. It hugs them.
Can we just go to number 1, please?
The number 1 ridiculously banned book is Worm Loves Worm.
I like finally Nery was waiting for the ta-da, and Roy was just like, I can't. Like, give me a second here.
Look at this. This is the direct about book. Ready?
Is it about black worms?
No.
All right.
No.
Sorry, Roy.
The worms are brown on the cover. They're brown. I don't know if that counts.
People of color, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, worms of color.
two worms in love decide to get married. And with help from cricket, beetle, spider, and bees, they have everything they need and more. But which one is the bride and which one is the groom?
Who cares?
They're earthworms. Earthworms are notoriously...
There it is.
There it is.
We nailed it.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. This is the test of the emergency everything system. Can we?
That was only one phone.
Not mine.
Somebody
Not mine.
owes $5.
Not mine.
I got it.
You owe $5. Oh!
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
$10.
Hey, by the way, this means the white guys are getting the signal before you guys are. Can I just say that?
Yeah, that's
America
true.
is alerting the white guys about several seconds ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, of the immigrants and minorities here.
I literally thought for a second, I was like, wait, is this the one? Is this the worms is the one that does it? The government's coming down on me because they're talking about the worms?
Here's the messed up thing about this is that a training document from the Charlotte County Public Schools superintendent revealed that as much as they said the Don't Say Gay bill isn't called that, it's called the Parental Choice Bill, they actually have said that these characters and themes cannot exist. That's a direct quote saying that because there are two dads or there are any gay best friends or any LGBTQ plus themes, they cannot exist. So the idea that Don't Say Gay was used to demean, dehumanize, and erase LGBTQ plus people who very much exist in this society, who very much are parents who send their children to these schools, that is and has been the scheme all along. On that note, Nery of whatwashisname.com, Nery Saenz, great comedian. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to end on a slightly happy note because Ron DeSantis, the governor of the great state of Florida, the great free state of Florida, was on Bill Maher's real-time show on HBO last week.
Bill Maher? What?
But be patient. He really put him on the spot here, and it was like as if Jeb Lund was interviewing Ron DeSantis. That is your Miami moment. That is your Because Miami for this week. Cocaine's.
Trump, you're trying to thread this needle that will never happen.
Well, for a couple reasons.
You can't disavow him because that's the base, and yet you're running against him. And that's why, I mean, let's face it, Ron, if campaign was going well, you wouldn't be on this show.